Okay, everybody. Well, welcome back. Today we are We are reviewing the Richmond race for the Cup Series. And today's race, I have this car in front of us for a reason, and it is because we're going to talk about our winner, Chris Buescher, locking his way into the playoffs. This year he did it before. Like last year he won a race. It just was too late. He wasn't in the playoffs. This year he gets it done earlier, and so he will be in the playoffs. Second win, or second season in a row with a win. So congrats, Chris Buescher. And RFK was strong. Brad Keselowski and Chris Buescher led a massive amount of the laps. So RFK showed up really strong today. The Fords looked great. The SHR Fords were good towards the front. Blaney had a decent car later, but this is one of Blaney's, if not Blaney's, worst tracks. So not surprising to see him struggle. But Joey Logano ends up with a top 5. So it was an overall good day for the Fords. I mean, the Fords ended up making up I want to say there was only 3 non-Fords in the top 11, so 8 of the top 11 were Fords. And then Blaney actually recovered and ended up 14th on the day. Only a couple struggling Fords, Todd Gilliland and Michael McDowell outside the top 20, Austin Cindric as well. And then, of course, I shouldn't say of course, but, Newman, Harrison Burton, and J.J. Yaley more towards the back and with the Fords. But otherwise, most of the Fords very, very competitive today. So let's go into it. Stage 1 comes through. Tyler Reddick kind of gets out front and leads all the laps. Bubba Wallace really makes a charge through the field. Ends up coming home second. Let's see, where you go? Yeah, second. Denny Hamlin ends up third. Chase Elliott fourth. Those 7 playoff points are going to play big when we start talking about the points and if he has a potential to still point his way into the playoffs. But we'll talk about that later. Kevin Harvick fifth. Ryan Preece got stage points. He got sixth. William Byron seventh. Eric Almirola eighth. Brad Keselowski ninth. And Ty Gibbs in 10th. Eric Almirola would have a pit penalty in the middle of stage 2 that would knock him back. He would recover. He was very fast today, especially on the long run. Stage 2 came to an end with Brad Keselowski and Chris Buescher out front. Tyler Reddick got third, Bubba Wallace fourth, Danny Hamlin fifth, Kyle Busch, Ryan Preece, Martin Truex Jr., Ty Gibbs, and Joey Logano, your top 10 through stage 2. And that was where the RFK cars really started showing speed. They got out front and they started to stay there. In stage 3, during one of the pit stop cycles, Brad Keselowski, I think, missed his pit box because he had a horrible entry as far as the angle to his pit box. Cost him a little bit of time on the pit stop, but there was also another issue somewhere on the left rear, I think, that also cost him some time. But he ended up losing over 9.5 or 10 seconds to Chris Buescher over the cycle of that pit stop, partially due to Chris Buescher pitting early, but caught him in traffic. Brad was never quite able to recover from that. And when I say recover, he fell back to 5th, but just never was able to get back to the lead. Other notables that had struggles, like I said, Almirola had that pit penalty. He did end up overcoming it. Martin Truex Jr. in stage 2 decides to go a half or a one-stop strategy versus a two-stop strategy. And so he and a couple others pushed it to lap 80 before they pitted. And Martin Truex Jr. was the only one that was really able to make that work. Everyone else on that strategy seemed to really fall off worse. Michael McDowell tried it. He lost a couple laps. Daniel Suarez tried it. He had his day go from just bad to worse over the course of that. So he tried it as well, but it just didn't work out for him. And so only really ended up working out for Martin Truex Jr., who got up to 8th by the end of that stage, I believe. He was in 8th. And so that's where the strategy was really shown, that it was the two-strap might work, but it also might not. It really came down to, did you have the long-run car or not? So stage 3, because it was even longer, it was an obvious two-stop strategy through that stage. Everyone followed it, and we had no cautions, no natural cautions, until, for some reason, Noah Gragson and Daniel Suarez get together for literally 30th. I wish I could tell you why, but I don't even understand what happened there. So we have a caution with 10 to go. We end up with a cycle of restarts, and I say this luckily. Luckily, Chris Buescher held on. He deserved to win that race. I did not really want to see that all get shook up at the end, and suddenly we have a Kyle Busch or a Joey Logano win, and Chris Buescher and Denny Hamlin get wrecked in turn 1 or something. I was glad that the deserving winner won this race. Chris Buescher gets in. He's in the playoffs. Our final finishing order on today's race, it was Chris Buescher, Denny Hamlin in 2nd, Kyle Busch 3rd, Joey Logano 4th, Ryan Preece in 5th. Preece was in the position for a top 3 before that caution. Brad Keselowski 6th, Martin Truex Jr. 7th, Eric Almirola 8th, Austin Dillon 9th, and Kevin Harvick rounds out the top 10. Notable finishes, Bubba Wallace had a real slip in that final set of pit stop / restart, ends up 12th. He actually ran much better than that all day. Chase Elliott 13th, Ty Gibbs 15th, also one of the cut guys. Alex Bowman 18th, and Michael McDowell 22nd. Coming to the line, something happened to A.J. Allmendinger. He lost 5 extra spots and ends up 27th. That may come back to bite him when it comes to playoff time. And then Daniel Suarez, as we mentioned, had a miserable day and came in 33rd. So, like I said before, we were talking about the finishing order. Now let's go ahead and just talk about the playoffs, or the playoff standings as they run currently. Because as they run currently, they haven't updated it on here, but I believe Michael McDowell now has an 18-point gap on Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs is now the one in the runner-up spot, and then it's A.J. Allmendinger, Daniel Suarez, and Chase Elliott, all within that next batch of points from 18 to 40. So Elliott 40 points out. He gained 16 points on the cut line. That's why I said that stage finish is important. That was 7 of those 16 points. And that just shows stage points can be a huge gain. But the question is, Michael McDowell is also good on road courses. Ty Gibbs has looked good on road courses. So moving through these next couple weeks, if Chase doesn't win, is he legitimately capable of getting up there in points? The answer is, I believe, yes, he's capable of it, but he will need stage points, which he hasn't shown the speed. That being said, the Hendrick cars were awful today. Outside of Elliott in 13th, the rest were all off the lead lap, I believe. At least when it came down to the race results. So, for whatever reason, Hendrick wins the race in the spring and then just looked awful here in the fall. So, but moving to Michigan, we'll see. It's a high-speed track. Ford hasn't lost a race there since 2017. So, if that tells you anything, there's a good chance Ford is going to be the cars to beat. But I guess we'll find out once we get there, because every year it can change and be a little different. Toyota was the stronger car last year before Harvick did snag a spot out front. So very excited for that. But yeah, like I said, that point battle coming to the playoffs is starting to really heat up. I'm definitely interested to see that. That being said, it is also time for my hot take of the day. Hot take of the day. I love strategy racing. I love tire racing. This race offered very little of either. I will say it. Richmond, it is time. You lose a date. I think you can have your fall date at night. You can have a night date at fall. One race at Richmond. The stands were half empty. That's disappointing. I know it seats a lot of people, but half empty just doesn't look good. I think we've seen with Pocono, we've seen with Michigan, we've seen with a lot of these tracks, when they go down to one date, the people show up. And that being said, obviously, I think Road America is a very deserving track that does deserve a date. I don't know if I want to put another road course on. I might want to substitute them with someone else, maybe Indy for that matter, in terms of, Indy goes back to the Brickyard, and then Road America can become another road course. So, I think Road America belongs there. They did a fantastic job. The repave showed that track still looks very racy. Xfinity Series looked great. They had a good turnout, even for an Xfinity race. And that place can host a cup race. They deserve it. But also, if not, let's move that Richmond race to the twin sister at Iowa, because I'm an Iowa homer. But also, that track, I went to an Indy race there. That place is fantastic. Yes, it does take a little bit of work and effort, but it can be done. I'm done saying that they need a whole bunch of improvements. I saw that race. I was involved in that traffic, getting in and out. I was in all that. Guess what? It was great. I had no issues getting in or out of that racetrack. Getting in, I should say, on Saturday was a little trickier. We came in the back road because I think the traffic was a little backed up. So that one was a little busier, but the other 2 days we went straight in and parked, and there's small improvements that could have been made, but I'm telling you, that place would easily sell out. That would be a packed house for that race. They would have all the temp grandstands and everything, and they'd still have it full. So yeah, I think it is time to look at that. There are certain tracks that just don't need 2 dates, and I hate to say it because I love Kansas, and the racing at Kansas is phenomenal. But those stands are empty in the spring. They really are not that full. And I think part of that is there's just not a lot of effort. If it's your one race, you put a lot more effort in. When it's one of your 2 races, one of your dates may get more attention than the other. I don't know. I think Daytona and Talladega do fine. They sell out every time they have races. Martinsville seems to do great as well. But yeah, if these tracks aren't selling all their tickets, it's time to move a date. And if the track doesn't like that, they're getting a date moved from them, then the tracks need to get aggressive and fill the stands. So I think there should be the tracks should be competing with each other to show that they can have the attendance and bring in the fans. So yeah, Richmond, like I said, the race, I love strategy racing, but this race, because of the stage lengths and how it all lined up, it was literally a 2-stop or 1-stop or 2-stop in the stages, which I thought was kind of just dull, kind of boring. I don't think just 2 strategies is the way to go. I would love to have seen what this looked like if it was a 400-mile race or a 400-lap race. I think one problem is you would have had guys getting lapped all the way up to like 5th. So that may have been a problem. But I also think that with that long strategy, you have the difference between a 6-stop race, a 7-stop race, a 5-stop race, and even a 4-stop race. So I think there's some of those potential opportunities that would have been very neat to see the difference between a 4, 5, 6, and 7. So you have guys pitting double the amount of times, but with the tire fall off, it might have worked. And then the timing of a caution could have changed everything. But instead, this is where stage racing, like I said, it kills tracks like Richmond. I understand it was a dull race, there were no incidents. Part of that, and the car sucks on short tracks, we know that, this is not news. But having a car that can stay out and run to the end of its window twice and run like 160 laps on 80 laps and 80 laps versus 3 stops. But then when you stretch that over the longer haul, suddenly you have guys pitting every 50 laps, every 70 laps, and every 80 laps. And so you have these guys that are running on a 4-stop strategy, a 5-stop strategy, a 6-stop strategy. So there was all these varying strategies. You would have to have literally computer monitors everywhere following all the strategy. It would be an absolute heaven for strategy racing. But stage cautions at Richmond, just like the road courses, really do screw up the strategy. It really does hurt it. So yeah, I would love to see, honestly, Richmond go to a chance of maybe not having stage cautions, because I do think it hurts the race. Personally. So, other than that, guys, Chris Buescher, your winner. He is now locked in the playoffs. That's one less spot available. He was pretty well locked in anyway. He had a lot of points, so he just locks in case, for some reason, there's a whole slew of new winners coming up here. Anyway, other than that, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you have enjoyed, and we will have our next review from the race at Michigan next week, and our next diecast review up tomorrow.